Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer doing some great things with his networking events in the club room. We got another great event tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Going to have some Major League Baseball players. Perfect timing for opening day later this week. So check it out, winagainacademy.com. Today we welcome Reuben Orteaga to the Wolff Den. Reuben, how are you today?
Good, Matt. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
So Reuben and I met at a networking event. It was at the ESTA Esports. So tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, so I am. I'm from originally Idaho. Spent my last dozen years or so up in Seattle working for some bigger law firms, and recently just made the move back to Idaho to help expand the Gravis law offices over here. Corporate attorney, work with businesses of all ages and stages. Really love esports and technology. Kind of have I don't know, growing up, just loved playing the games and loved the stuff as we learned to work the computers back in the day, right? And so have that background and kind of excited to be here and talk to you a minute, just to chat. It's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I look back at some of the games that we played, the technology is terrible, the graphics are terrible, but the actual game itself, sometimes I enjoy playing those games a little bit more. I got an NBA Jam.
Do you? NBA Jam
right here on the other side of this computer. So, but yeah, love. I'm not as big a gamer now. I'm more on the old school sports and stuff. But esports is a huge thing now. How long have you been involved in esports?
Yeah, so I would say that I've probably been involved in esports at least 5 years, maybe even 6 or 7. My first client was a YouTuber, right? And they were just broadcasting StarCraft, right? And they'd play it, and they'd they had a bunch of IP issues where they were trying to deal with licensing from Blizzard, and that just kind of got me into the arena. It's interesting. Most of these folks kind of congregated back down around the LA area, right? And so being in Seattle, we got a few of them, and so that was really fun to jump into that space. And we used to play StarCraft back in the day, but I don't play much anymore. My kids are involved in all sorts of sports and stuff. My brother did buy me one of those little tiny old school Nintendos. It's like this big, plugs in HDMI, right? So I introduced my kids the other day to Dr. Mario, showed them how to play that, which was tons of fun. But from a legal standpoint, this is such a cool area because it has convergence of not only IP and licensing, but it's also entrepreneurs and business development, and people are, like taking risks and building stuff that's never been built before. And so it's tons of fun to see. I mean, even your platform here, this wasn't around 3-4 years ago, right? Like, how long have you been doing this again, Matt? You've been here for a while now, right?
The Wolff Den?
Yeah, the Wolff Den.
I started it this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is just amazing.
Maybe I did start last year. I might have started last year.
Yeah, but it's super cool.
Yeah, not long ago. Who does the rights favor? If I'm someone because you see all these people broadcasting on YouTube them playing, is that legal or not legal?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually legal. There's been a big push between Microsoft's platform and Twitch and YouTube, and each platform has its own rules and regulations as well as the game, right? So when you sign into a game, whether you're playing Hearthstone or Fortnite or whatever it is, you effectively agree to their terms and conditions that say, everything's actually ours and we own it. And then there's this unwritten rule that in the industry that's like, well, this person's really good at the game, and so we're going to let them continue to play because they're bringing a lot of publicity to it. And even though we own the content, we're going to allow them to continue to broadcast. And then the platforms like Twitch or YouTube will do something where they'll shut somebody down, or they'll take down somebody with a bunch of followers because of, who knows, a violation of some term. And then there's this real big friction yet, and it still is yet to be resolved, of who owns the former content, right? Does it all go to YouTube because it was done on YouTube's platform, or does it belong to the gaming companies? The real answer here is it doesn't belong to the broadcaster, right? 9 times out of 10, you're using other people's platforms. You don't have your own setup, right? You haven't invented your own game, and so you're really at the mercy of those other companies. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that got burned in the early days with signing some pretty big bulky contracts that took not only all their rights to everything, but also all the money to everything that they were earning.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a case where we'll let you use whatever you want, until you get big enough where you're earning some money, and then we want a piece of it, and now we gotta figure out how to do that. It seems like that might be the case.
Yeah, it is, and it's really interesting because there's kids, 15, 12-year-old kids that are really good gaming, and they'll stream uh, anything at this point. And even chess is getting big on Twitch right now for some reason because of Queen's Gambit. And they'll stream whatever they can, and effectively, as soon as they start making any money, Twitch will take a piece of that. That's part of the platform. But then if for instance Blizzard gets involved, then they'll take even more. And so you have to really, I've really recommended to my clients that we negotiate that ahead of time. Like, hey, if this is something you're going to do and you're going to commit 8 hours a day to streaming, and you want to do this, and you've got associated with some esports team at college or something, like, hey, let's go and get the right licensing. And sometimes your teams will do that for you as well, which is nice. That's why those teams have been popping up all over college campuses as well. It's starting to become kind of a, you have the football team and now you have the esports team, and that's happening a lot.
So you have to stay under the radar, like get popular enough, but stay under the radar. It's not unlike the other licensing where there's so much stuff out there that's illegal, but it's not worth them, right? It's got to be worth them to take the time to take action against it, to be like, they're not making enough money to make it worth our while, or they're not really harming us in that way. It's kind of interesting to navigate. Navigating the trademark and licensing type.
There's very few people like Getty Images. Getty Images will send a demand letter, a takedown letter on a solo website with one image that they think is violating their terms. And Getty has so many images, they even get it wrong sometimes. It's happened to a couple of my clients where they'll get a letter from Getty, and I'll go back to them. I'll be like, actually, this is everywhere and it's not yours. And they go, oh, sorry. But there's very few that have the resources like Getty that just goes and sends stuff out. So they do wait till it becomes worthwhile. And honestly, most of the time, it's just good advertising for them. And so they like that benefit. And as long as people are staying, somewhat in message with their brand and not ruining their brand, they're good with it.
Yeah, that was my first thought when I started doing the tickets is, let me just do it and wait till someone says you can't do that. And then I'm like, look, I want to be the next big thing. So I want to start off on the right foot. It's not bad attention sometimes, but it might not be the best way to get someone's attention.
Right.
So you gotta kind of try and do it the right way. It's funny the lengths that people go to skirt the copyright and trademark and licensing type stuff, and they can be very successful at it. And the consumer doesn't know any different.
Right. That's true. And one of the things that I find most of my clients, they put a lot of effort into worrying about something that all it takes is me to write, the legal department, say, hey, we'd like to do X, Y, and Z. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, here's our standard form. Go ahead and make it happen. Right. And so I think there's a lot of unknown, and because there's unknown, they make it harder than it has to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not much of a gamer, but I watch my nephews watch YouTube and just watch people for like hours, just sit in front
Totally.
and do it. Are they learning how to play themselves, or is it just like entertainment? I'm not understanding. Like chess, I can understand, because if you're watching a very good player play chess,
you learn a little bit, right?
You can learn from it. But from these games, it seems like it might be a little bit more. I don't know if you could just replicate what someone else is doing, unless there's like if you're watching the old Super Mario, how I conquer this stage or something like that. I don't know. It's
I consider it the Luigi syndrome, right? Like growing up, me and my brother used to play Super Mario Brothers, and he played first player, and I only got to play when he died, right? And so I got really good at watching him play Mario, right? And so that's what I think they tapped into, is this idea that some people are okay just watching other people play. And as far as content and TV and entertainment, there is a bunch of um, there's a bunch of stuff out there that people are craving, something that's a little more dynamic and a little more Leroy Jenkins is, right? Running in, exploding something, right? Like that's the new generation, and everyone growing up wants something to entertain them and not just passively see the same thing that they already read about online, right? So it's been this content creation generation has been super interesting to see them develop and feed that need for people. So
Yeah, I mean, I was always just playing sports. That's all I played on the consoles. And I know there was a lot of other good games. And then GTA comes in and Fortnite and all these, shoot 'em up kind of games. It's do you have an idea of what the split is in the esports world between game like sporting and shoot 'em up type of stuff?
Oh, so the first person shooter, the Counter Strikes and what have you are way ahead, 90% of the. I mean, I think it started back with Halo, obviously, or even, I mean, yeah, tournament wise, probably Halo is the first one, the big one, and those sort of first person shooters that require high hand eye coordination, and have a real skill gap between the beginners and the experts. That's really where it's at. I think there's a flurry of other games that people get that play, and there's just like TV channels, right? You have the home shopping network that I never turn on, but I know that like there's people out there buying stuff and watching it, right? But not a high percentage. Not a high percentage. That's one thing. So my practice is really broken into two areas, right? It's kind of the entrepreneur startup, get things going, and then there's the kind of the end of the game. It's an exit, it's a merger, it's a transaction, and right now you see a lot of those transactions happening in the industry where two or three individuals on a team are going, hey, we want to get out of this and really just become a business. And so they've taken their content and they're licensing it, but they're rolling it into a bigger platform or a bigger mission. I have one client who does a bunch of podcasts, and they're getting they're doing a fundraising right now, and they're having tons of interest because they know that people are shifting from the radio to listening to podcasts. And so with all the money in the market, there's all of these transactions happening that are shifting how we're going to be entertained as it comes in the future. And I grew up playing sports as well. I love baseball, but I just don't see us. And maybe it'll change, but I feel like the people that can play baseball and basketball and what have you, I don't think they're going to be in the majority anymore. I think it's going to be those that are have found a way to leverage the digital space, and maybe there'll be a convergence between the digital space and the physical in that way. It'll be kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I wonder if the esports world is going to go more towards the individual sport like golf and tennis as opposed to a team. There's got to be a benefit to just being on your own, depending on what game it is, but more leverage, more money, more control, all of that.
Well, and yeah, and then everybody's all about building their own brand, right? And so even in the esports, startup space, if you can build your own brand, build your own following, that's where you end up getting the most traction, and people get really interested in having you become part of their team, is because, or their esports organization, is because you've created this image that's like, hey, this is the guy that is. I mean, who is it on Fortnite that I ran into the other day? We know, Tim the Tat Man, right? Like he started out being this really out of shape guy that's a dad and played video games and had tattoos, right? And since then he's grown it into a legitimate business where he makes a ton of money. And it's all about building your brand and protecting that. And that's one thing when you're talking about IP licensing, right? Everybody out there, you can build it, and you get some protection just because you build it and you have traction. But unless you take the steps to license properly and file for trademarks and do all of the things that lawyers love to do, right? then you're gonna be in a spot where maybe somebody in Australia copies your brand, and the world is so small right now that if you don't think internationally, you're not thinking properly. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that in your space out there, and the Europeans or the you know, international field at play here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the world is more accessible without having to be somewhere, so it's just easier to reach them. I think it's, you always got to be thinking bigger. Think bigger and then think global. These kids who are wanting to get in, or even adults. I mean, is it like wanting to be a professional poker player because everyone's trying, but there's only going to be a select? Like, is it like athletes and those professionals? I mean, is it the 1%, 5%? I mean, what do you think it's out there for someone looking to get into this?
It's super interesting because there's not only a skill gap, you have to be good at playing it at one of these games, but then you also have to be creative enough to create your own brand, right? And so I think that you're looking at, again, I think it's professional poker players is a super great analogy because, I went to law school and I had probably half of my classmates drop out of law school because they were like, nobody's getting jobs right now and I want to be a professional poker player. And none of them made it, right? Like, it just doesn't happen. But when you're getting into the esports, if you're creative enough to create your brand and protect it, and then you're lucky enough to have some skill, right? Then you're probably in the top 10%. But the ones that really take off have the brand, have the skill, and then get noticed and get a following, right? And that is still yet an unknown nut to crack. Sometimes people are lucky enough to have someone like a ninja say, "Hey, follow this unknown guy for a half hour of my stream," and they all of a sudden go from 10,000 followers to 500,000, right? But unless you get some sort of exposure, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, you end up spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you don't get the following that draws any sort of attention from advertisers or sponsors or anything like that.
And so this world is really built on the influencer model, because you can be good at something, but you need to be known, and then get kind of. You could buy followers, right? Can't you?
Oh, they do, and people do, and you have to be kind of careful, right? In this world, Twitch has some terms and conditions about doing that, but they buy followers all the time, and if you get caught doing it, you get blacklisted on the platform. One of the things that I have seen individuals do that is really business focused, but not common, is that they'll go and get sponsors for super cheap. Like, normally, they'll even pay sponsors to be sponsors rather than getting paid for a sponsorship, so that they can get more advertising and more exposure. And they try to build it like a traditional model where, they run ad campaigns and social media, and they do remarketing, so it tracks people on the way. People that look up, a particular game, all of a sudden this ad starts popping up. Hey, check out this streamer. But those are legit marketing business models that take cash, and most people that are starting up don't have that. Not only don't have the sophistication to do that, but the cash to do it. And so, but there's been a few that have been able to really create a following, not because they're not the best player, right? But they are a marketer, and they do know how to leverage the social media and the platform properly.
Yeah, algorithms, and it's not that much different than it's all video games and algorithms and all that. It's enough to give me a headache. I'm not good at any of that, so I got to the old-fashioned way and organically. But for anyone who is listening, we are looking for sponsors for the Wolff Den. If anyone wants to sponsor it, we're also looking for sponsors on the back of our tickets that we're going to be printing too. A great way to get your name in front of people in the sports and entertainment world, and someday esports. I think esports will be big enough that we'll do some pretty cool ticketing stuff for their events once they get back in person. Or there's a lot of festivals that are combining with esports, and then conferences that are sort of a combination the two, it's growing. I say the other thing I said the other day was the only thing that can stop the esports from exploding is this whole NFT business, which is gonna take over. That are there any lead? Are you following the NFT?
So I just saw it come through, and I haven't dived into my cryptocurrency NFT stuff yet. We have some clients that have stable coins, and we've been working through some of the distributive finance, the DeFi stuff. But I haven't really dove in and digested what it means to be an NFT and how that's going to shake things up. I think it's going to. I agree from the little bit that I've read, but tell me a little bit more about the NFT from your perspective.
Well, it's just what value do you put on something that's not tangible? So, I'm taking a time machine. We're a physical commemorative company, so I would say not much on my side, but there are people who do it. And then you got, I think there's just opportunity to manipulate the market and the influencers to, help the rich get richer, and there's a high barrier to entry in a lot of this stuff. Really, you can put anything into an NFT, right? Something's only worth what someone will pay for. We just talked to my friend Frank. I don't know if he's listening, but we were talking about this with his kid yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, his kid has these Pokemon cards. He's like, they're worth this, this, and this," and he goes, "Well, no, they're worth nothing. This and this." So we look at stuff like art, actual physical art, and people are buying it for millions of dollars. Yeah, there's going to be a market for this stuff. I don't know. I don't know. People will make. I like to say that. Look, I cannot be a fan of it and still think that people are going to do well with it. Same with, MLMs and, I don't know. I don't want to say Ponzi schemes, but there's definitely, in the world I was in before, in the anti-money laundering world, I just think that this space is rife for fraud and that. I wonder what the legal, ramifications are. Anything that pops out, just,
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a number of things, right? So, first off, obviously, the government has regulations up the wazoo with regard to securities and whether you're a money exchanger and whether you're violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and sending money to the blacklisted countries. Like, all of this stuff comes up in this world. The problem is our government is so slow to pass regulations and to really go, okay, this is what they're still trying to barely scratching the surface on figuring out what cryptocurrency is, right? And they passed this thing against Ripple saying that it was actually a security, and now there's this lawsuit, and if Ripple wins this, it'll change the landscape there. But at this point with NFTs, you're right, it's ripe with it's totally, be careful, beware. There's no protection under the law at this point because they found a gray area and they squarely fit themselves right in that gray area, even though from an intentional standpoint, it's clear that the SEC doesn't want people trading, even digital tokens for securities or promises and equity in some way. This came up. I think this NFT is being used right now to do digital like trading cards as well. And again, there's going to be a market for anybody that's willing to buy this stuff, but from a control standpoint and a transparency standpoint, it's just not there yet. And so you can end up, there's going to be a number of this is why we can't have nice things, Matt, right? There's bad people. This is why lawyers have jobs, right? Because there are people that will see this, they will take advantage of it, and they will end up screwing over a number of people. And that is
there's nothing in this world, literally nothing in this world that is safe from hackers and people doing bad things on the internet. Nothing.
Given enough time, right?
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And so wasn't it the guy, the SafeLock or LifeLock, who
the LifeLock guy? Yeah, totally.
Social security number on air, and then he got hacked
like 10 times. I think he got his ID stolen like 10 different times.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have a great product. It just means, look, there's people out there who might be able to figure this stuff out. So, it's yeah, it'll be interesting. I know that I think the Angels were accepting crypto payment for suites, which
Mm-hmm.
is genius because they're gonna, they'll figure out that it's only gonna go up right now in a way, and let's
Well,
just
and
say
Tesla's taking Bitcoin right now for cars, right?
let's just say it goes down half. I mean, that's who cares? They had space that cost them nothing really, so it's just it's good to hold on, and then they could use that crypto when if it's down to I don't know, buy some more stuff. Who knows? It's intriguing. It's interesting. I know Mark Cuban is a big proponent. He's doing some transactions with the crypto stuff. I'm always leery of the people who are in that upper echelon of wealth who are pushing something because I want to believe that there's not a motive behind it, but it's kind of really hard to think like, hey, why is the guy pushing this? The trading card space and the hotshot stuff and NFTs and this, and it's tough to trust people like that. And we don't have the same access too. That's the other thing, right? I don't have the access that everyone else has.
Right. Well, and so it's super interesting because I think the commercial space, like you're talking about with the Angels, and even just commercial buildings, I think with all this remote working that we've been doing over the last year, commercial space is going to be hurting to try to figure out how to fill it up, and they're going to get creative, and they're going to try to start taking crypto, and they're going to start, you're going to see floors of office buildings changed into, esports centers or something, right? Like they're gonna do some creative stuff.
Apartment complexes or dorms or something. They'll figure it out, I think.
Well, I even heard one guy talk about how they're going to create these Nerf arenas for kids. The parents that are working downtown can drop their kid off and play, in a Nerf or an airsoft arena of some sort. The whole floor of a building, right? And because they'll be empty. So I thought it was super interesting that way, and that's what's awesome about practicing the law, right, Matt? Is all of these changes and being on the cutting edge with the technology. It's so fun to be able to see what clients are doing, how creative they've gotten, and then to help advise them. And for me, it's living vicariously because I don't get to take the risk, right? I just go, oh, that seems like that's dangerous. Let's not do that. Or, oh, well, that's kind of a gray area. Go ahead and try. This is your risk, right? And so I love seeing what people do and how they get creative, and so that's part of the reason I do what I do is to live vicariously through them. Right.
I was just watching some scenes from Along Came Polly. Have you seen that movie? With
yeah. It's been a while though. It's been a while.
Yeah, and Ben was a risk assessment guy, and for insurance, it's an interesting field for sure. I think there's so much stuff out there now that's risky but rewarding, and people are putting their life savings into stuff the same way they did back in the day, and it's just when it does go crash, these people who have the money are going to be fine, and these other people are going to be in big trouble. And then when you have a lot of people in big trouble, then bad things start to happen. So I'm hopeful that they can figure out a way to do this where it's safe and good for the economy. I was on a Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was on a Clubhouse talk where someone was talking about creating like their own currency. I think it was for the African American community, so they can create their own currency. And so it's never going to happen where you can't create your own currency. That's why I think this whole crypto thing is going to be, the government, unless they could figure out a way to make money on it and make sure it's safe. And I don't know that they'll ever approve that. And then again, we talk about all these other laws, how you're going to uphold the money laundering and the FCPA and, with banking and Patriot Act. I mean, there's so much involved in doing that.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's trying to balance the control and the safety that they're trying to provide. The government is versus freedom, right? And that balance is there's pros and cons on all of their approaches. I have clients right now that send crypto over to Southeast Asia and have it converted into real money over there, and then have that wired back here because they want that freedom of being able to do international transactions without having to worry about the exchange rates, because the crypto is a better exchange, right? So they'll play the arbitrage game. And that's just one one venue, right?
Are you? You might not be a tax guy, but how do you tax crypto?
Right. Right. And so who knows at this point? I honestly don't know the direct answer to that. It's interesting because every agency looks at crypto differently. Some look at it as if it's a currency. Some look at it if it's personal property. And effectively, crypto is taxed at, so if you put in 10 grand into Bitcoin and it grew to 50, right? You got $40,000 of income you got to pay tax bill on. And a lot of people are getting burned by that. Coinbase, what was it, 2 years ago? Probably started sending their information to the IRS, and you as well, and people started getting audited because they were taking gains in the crypto but not paying the tax on them. And it's an issue because it's a legitimate problem. Nobody likes dealing with the IRS, but you got to pay your taxes, right? And so that's the part of when you jump onto a platform, whatever it is, you kind of accept those terms, right? And Coinbase's terms were, hey, we're going to share this with the IRS because we don't want to get fined, and it's really your obligation, so pay attention to it. Nobody read the terms.
Nobody reads I was going to say, nobody reads the terms on any of these things because there's two reasons why you don't read the terms. One, it almost doesn't matter because whatever they say, you're going to agree to anyway. Very few are going to be this thing like, well, I can't do business with you because of your terms. Not talking about a one-on-one contract. I'm talking about terms and conditions in whatever you're doing. You always see those. But it's interesting how no one reads it, but there's like 10 pages of them.
No, I do them all the time for clients. I create terms and conditions and privacy policies, and the advice I give my clients is no one's going to read it. You should protect yourself to the gills, and people that check the box and go, yep, I'm agreeing to your terms, I'll use your service. I don't know if I'll switch ever. I don't know where the incentives will be to have to shift that back onto the service providers, right? But right now, it is definitely not user friendly. It's meant to protect the platforms and the businesses so they can grow and explore these new realms of technology.
Can you see people settling lawsuits in crypto, say offering someone crypto?
I mean,
settlement. Have you seen that yet?
I've done it. Yeah, no, I've done it 100%. I actually had a software developer who was helping create a coin, a specific crypto, and they got delayed and got behind, and they were getting paid in one sort of crypto to do the job. And we settled the lawsuit by paying them off in another crypto that we also had holdings in. And so it's happening. It's totally happening.
What's stopping someone from creating crypto or NFT? I mean, nothing really. So, isn't that just going to saturate the market and be like, if anyone can do it, why is it worth so much money?
Well, it's the difference. It's the same thing between the peso and the, what is it? The Zambian dollar, right? Like you can get, currency from any country at this point. You go to an exchange and you say, hey, I want some Australian dollars, right? But they're each valued differently, and correspondingly, they're valued against something of real value, usually gold or the dollar, right? They're pegged to the dollar. And so from a structural standpoint, the market already has thousands and thousands of cryptos, right? And there's going to be a few of them that'll come to the top and actually be worth something, maybe because they're backed by the right people, or maybe because they've pegged themselves to actual something of tangible value.
Yeah.
But it is all a social contract, right? Like even the dollars we spend, they're paper, right?
Yeah, but no one has any thought that paper's going to have. I know there's there's chatter about the paper not having value, but the paper is always going to have value.
Well, and it's interesting. For the first time in U.S. history, our debt is larger than our GDP, right? And there's people saying that like at some point there's going to be more value in crypto or the Brazilian currency or some other country than the United States. And when that flips, when that happens, because we keep getting into debt, we keep doing these stimulus, we keep being loose with our money, or China calls in all the debt it owes, or something will happen that will shift the. I mean, at one point, England and France were the world powers, and everything revolved around them, and then it shifted, right? And I don't know if that'll happen in our lifetime, but it seems like everything's happening faster and faster because of technology and the information that's flowing. So who knows?
I just think I'm not like a finance major or anything like that, but the debt is kind of it's almost like monopoly money at this point. What's the difference if it's 4.3 trillion or 4.2 trillion? It's never getting paid off anyway.
Or 11 trillion.
It's just about confidence and speculation and all of that. But I'll let the finance people talk more about that. The last thing I want to say about the NFTs or the crypto is there was a story about someone who lost their password, right? And now they have like 6 attempts and then it's gone forever. That just seems crazy to me. I'll tell you a quick story. We were going to New Orleans for my brother and I graduation trip, and we get on the plane and we get off the plane in New Orleans, and my dad is like, all right, where's your plane ticket? I'm like, I left it on the plane in the seat. And this is back 20 plus years ago. They charged us like $200 something to get a ticket, but because we didn't get the e-ticket, and mind you, they had e-tickets available at that time, but if you didn't get it and you had a paper ticket, so we had to pay. So it's like, am I going to do something that if I lose my password or someone hacks and changes it, it's gone forever at that high risk? That seems nuts to me. But and that might be a political ploy, I'm sure, or PR ploy. I'm sure they know what their password is.
Well, maybe, and to be honest, there's really two ways to mitigate your risk, right? Is by insurance or by contract. And if you're not going to get the option to negotiate your terms and conditions, right, and insurance companies aren't going to cover it because it's so unknown or so new, right, then you got a risk you're taking there. And everybody that takes risks, there are two types of people. They either know what they're doing or they don't know what their risks are taking. And I think that the problem here is a lot of people don't understand the risk of what they're getting into.
And then the risk, the risk could be undefined too. I always say, especially in the legal percent, I used to think that if you were right, that you're right. But now it doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if it's legal or not in some cases. There's always that gray area or interpretation of the law, or someone who just doesn't care about the law. And
yeah, I know. And not to be super jaded, but I believe we have less of a justice system and more of a legal system, right? And so people that think they can get justice out of a legal system are sorely misinformed. But from a access to actual justice standpoint, right? This is stuff the lawyers talk about all the time in the lawyerly meetings when we get together about how we protect the profession and keep our integrity and what have you. There is this issue about, if a wrong has been committed and people can't afford to go and pursue their rights, then what good is it, right? And so I think that what you're hitting on here is a real issue, and this is why when I work with clients, I try to find a way for us to work on a project by project basis or a flat fee or some way that they can call me and they can talk to me and we can work through the problem without them going, oh, this is an endless money pit of issues and it'll never resolve, because for them it is more important that the stuff they actually get some sort of justice out of it, and we resolve the issues rather than me take all their money and then they're never around. That doesn't do me any good. I'd lose all my clients, right? So
yeah, it's interesting how there's really only lawyer jokes out there, right? I mean, there's no other profession, right? Unless you're, I don't even know. Do you have a good lawyer joke that you've heard? Your favorite?
Oh, wow. The one that's really, really, really nice is there isn't any lawyer jokes. They're all true.
Yeah.
But I do have one underwriter joke. I think insurance underwriters are worse than lawyers. That's the one caveat there.
Car salesman. Don't hear a lot of car salesman jokes, although they're
not anymore, right? It's no. I mean, look, we get a bad reputation as lawyers because it is such a. We have to think about the worst case scenarios, right? So from the people that want to move fast and are entrepreneurial and are building something, the lawyer is the no, you can't do that. There's a barrier. there's all these rules you have to comply with. And they're like, no, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to build. I'm just going to create. And then on the other side, it's, when something goes wrong, the first thing you do is you get a letter from the other side's lawyer that says, hey, you screwed up and you didn't, follow X, Y, and Z. And so now you owe us money. And it's a problem, right? It's not and personally, I think it's because not enough lawyers aren't brought into the conversation early enough and thought of as a strategic partner. I think they're thought of as kind of a cost center. And so,
and they are, in a sense, right? It's almost, you can look at it like there's no winners. There's just, how can we lose the least amount? I mean, it kind of is that way in a sense. Look, if lawyers were more affordable, we'd all use them all the time. But understanding that, you're at a firm that needs to make money and there's billable hours. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that probably nobody wants to hear about.
But I think that if we could find a way to think of lawyers as strategic advisors, right? Like that the person you call and you say, hey, I got this crazy idea, tell me how it can go sideways and help you avoid some of those hurdles. I think you're going to be better off in the long run. But you got to bite the bullet at the beginning and go, okay, let me have this conversation and let me slow down a minute, right? Because if you don't and you just go into the unknown and you end up, investing, just reading this article, $69 million into an NFT, right? Okay, well, there's the risk, right? What happens when somebody comes around and says the NFTs are illegal and you can't have them? Some government agency.
That goes back to the point I made. If you have $69 million to invest in NFT, you might not care so much.
That's probably
true. And that guy himself is actually, you're talking about the art, I forget the name, but he's selling portions of that now.
Right.
He's hedging his bet in a way, but probably making money on it because he'll sell those portions for more than whatever he paid for it. So it's kind of genius in that sense.
Well, and I do think our system is built on some sort of competency, right? So people that are super smart and are really creative take this risk, and because they can take that 69 million and turn it into something more, right? By selling off pieces at a little bit more, a little higher price. And that's what I love about, our system and the way things are currently set up for us, is that people that are willing to risk and people that are creative, they can usually find a path to build something fun.
Yeah, part of it is the next generation of get rich quick, isn't it?
Never works out. It never works out. It might be. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom used to have books like how to make your first million or stuff like that. I'm like, there's no book for any of this stuff. Is why are these people writing books and 3 versions of books? And if they knew exactly how to do it, they would just do it and keep doing it and repeat doing it until they had enough money that they didn't have to do anything that they didn't want to do.
Right.
So it's I don't know. What made you want to become a lawyer?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I started off my my undergrad in college learning computers. I actually got my associate's degree in network admin, and then so I went to BYU.
Okay.
And then, so I was heavy into computers. Thought I'd just be a network administrator at some place, and then I took a economics class, and it was a law and economics class, and changed my perspective on. I was super intrigued on all of these things about incentives and how laws are created and how you can structure. It was a thing about a city that I still remember it to this day. They were trying to figure out the best way to incentivize taxes in the city to do some sort of public works thing. Anyway, the whole point of it wasn't super exciting, but the mental game, the chess game that was happening on solving the problem to make people do what they wanted to have done, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. And so I dove into economics, changed my major. And then I got done with economics and I went, oh crap, what can I do? And I remembered this class and it was like, okay, I can either go be a banker or I could go to law school, and you can do tons with a law degree. So I kept my doors open. And as I went through law school and realized that I just liked solving unique problems. And I liked playing creating structures where, I didn't have to worry if people were going to do the right thing. The documents incentivize them to do the right thing. And so that's kind of how I folded myself into this area. It just kind of, I love solving those complex issues and creating, documents that make people do the right thing, because, that's what everybody agreed to do in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
So
where'd you go to grad school?
So Iowa, went out to Iowa,
Okay.
became a Hawkeye for a while, loved the football team. I don't know if you've done Midwest football ever in your life, but it's like a religion and a culture and
it's got that. There's a lot of that in the South, and it's all over the place. But I know Iowa. We have Brent's family lives in Iowa. They're big Hawkeyes. The BYU, he says go Hawks. The BYU
totally.
Thing where you have to sign that honesty.
Oh yeah.
Thing, and then the basketball player got kicked off because he had sex with his girlfriend, and crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, no, like it's super interesting, right? It's a religious school, right? And I tell people all the time, like, I knew what I was getting into when I went there. I read what I signed, and sure, I had roommates that tried to skirt the rules all the time, and people complain about it. And I said, like, I don't know, it just didn't seem like worth the effort. Like, either you're going to go there and you're going to follow the rules, or you don't want to, so don't go there, right? Like,
thousands of schools to go to.
Yes, exactly, right. And so it just seemed like a lot of effort for what you knew you were getting into at the beginning. There's very few people, and maybe I'm being disingenuous. Maybe they are that naive, and they went, oh, it can't be that bad, or it's not going to be that big a deal, or whatever. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know. Look, they're still in business, right? Plenty of people going. They're not a small school. I mean, they're not not the hugest school, but any aspirations to be a judge or a state attorney or anything like that?
No, I got a buddy I grew up with that just last year became a judge, and he's loving it. And it's just not in my wheelhouse. I am definitely more. I like strategy. I like people. At some point, I'd love to. I have some side hustles going on right now that I'd love to see where they get. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'd love to work in a big company and just be the lawyer there in house at some point.
You're working like 80 hours a week. You don't have time to enjoy your money.
Well, see, that's the thing is I want to work in an atmosphere where I don't know. I just like working with leaders, right? And doing something that is, maybe it's more of a consulting gig, but as I find myself getting bigger and bigger clients and becoming more and more connected to those clients, where they're sending me to their, I'm in their board meetings, I'm traveling to see them on site as they're building new facilities. Like, I really like that role of being kind of that trusted advisor. And so, if I could find something like that at the end of the day, I mean, that'd be cool. That's kind of my ultimate, work 12 hours a week, but get paid like I'm working 80. That's also a part of the game. So
Sign me up. What are some of your favorite courtroom movies?
Oh, I like A Few Good Men, probably. That's always fun. You can't handle the truth, right?
That's my favorite movie of all time. A Few Good Men.
Oh, really? There you go.
Not even just Courtyard, just number one movie all time. I could watch that movie a million times.
Right. They made us watch Paper Chase when we started law school. That was fun. But I honestly, I really like Suits. I don't know if you've seen that TV show. It's about this kid who has like a extremely photographic memory, and he ends up conning his way into becoming a lawyer. And it's really smart and really funny, and it's worth watching. I enjoyed it. It's a TV show though, not a movie. So it's got like 4 or 5 seasons, I think.
Yeah. Maybe. My wife watched Your Honor. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No.
A legal show. Obviously, My Cousin Vinny and Liar Liar are good.
Sure.
Runaway Jury and the Grisham books are both all good attorney courtroom type.
Yeah.
The Chicago 7 was a great. I think it might be up for awards. That was a great.
Well, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, and then what was the one with Jamie Foxx when he was in jail and the guy was trying to? That was a powerful movie.
I just watched that. What was that called? Oh man.
Michael B. Jordan, right? Was it?
Yes.
Michael Jordan?
And it dealt with all the South and the races and all of that. Like that was actually a legit movie. They did a really good job on that.
Now, if you went to BYU, have you ever seen the movie School Ties with Brendan Fraser? I think that'd be a movie for you to watch because they have, it's almost like a BYU code of conduct. And it's just really interesting, but it's a very good movie, School Ties with Brendan Fraser. What's on your bucket list? I know we talked about traveling. You just came off a vacation. Where's your favorite? Is that the favorite place you've ever been? Where's a place you've never been that you'd love to go to?
Okay, well, so last December of 2019, before COVID hit, we went to Australia and New Zealand, and I spent 10 days or 12 days in Australia and then like 3 days in New Zealand. And I wish I would have been the other way around. New Zealand is legit, and I got to go back. That was tons of fun. I have on my bucket list travel wise, I got to go to Spain. My dad, his grandpa was blonde hair and blue eyed, and then on his mom's side, and then on his dad's side was black hair, brown eyes, and so he's half from Spain and then Sonora Indian, and so I've done the travel down to Mexico, but I haven't been to Spain, and it's supposedly in the Basilic region area somewhere where our Orteaga name came from. So I got to go back home. I got to figure that out. That's on the list somewhere. Should be super cool. My wife wants to go do London on New Year's Eve one time in our life at some point.
London was great. I
done that
much more than I thought I would.
Yeah. We and then we have a friend who's from India that she keeps talking about wanting to go back, and I've never been, and I hear it's amazing. So
my sister loves India, and she went with someone who knows.
Yeah.
If you go have an opportunity to go with your friend where she can guide you, I think you'd have a great time out there.
That's the key.
Did I tell you that we were going to maybe try and do 2 truths and a lie? Do you have anything cooked up for that? I'm trying to get that thing here.
Yeah.
Any 2 truths and a lie that you can put quickly?
Yeah. So 2 truths and a lie. Let me give you the.
Give us 3, and I'll see if I can try and figure it out.
You can figure it out. Okay. I am middle child of 3 kids. My wife is the only person that I've ever kissed, and I am undefeated in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
I feel like the second one is the lie, but the first one would be an easier lie.
Yeah, so those are all true.
Oh man, you
I
got
screwed over there. No, my jiu-jitsu tournament, I've done 1 tournament, and I did the older guys age, so there was only 2 competitors, and I survived, and so I won that, and I retired from jiu-jitsu.
That's a good plan.
No, I just do it for fun. No, I dated a lot. My wife is amazing. I tell my kids, I said, first time I kissed your wife or my spouse was when we were married, right? But that's just semantics on the language there, right? So that's the way you do it. Right?
I always like to ask about someone's Mount Rushmore, but what's your biggest thing? Sports, music, or movies? What's your biggest hobby out of those?
No, it has to be jiu-jitsu. I started it. So my wife got me into it probably 2 years ago. She started before me and would come home and practice and almost murder me. And so I had to get started in it and protect myself. And it's become like my addiction. Like I love it. I try to do it 4 times a week. And it's literally, and for me, it's the chess game, right? It's move, counter move, fake, feint.
But if you're doing it 4 days a week, why not get into more tournaments? Put the record on the line.
But it might happen. But it's been easy to fly under the radar with COVID and stuff. But no, it's amazing. It's super good for my health. And I wrestled a little bit in high school, but this has taken my grappling to a whole nother level, and I super enjoy it. And I didn't think I would, but it really is the mental game that gets me. There's so much to learn, and every day, I mean, I went yesterday and I've been going for 3 years, right? And I learned something that was super simple and easy that I'd never thought of. And I'm a white belt, right? Like there's white, blue, brown, black, purple, red, purple, brown. Anyway, like I got 20 years left of that to learn.
You've been doing 3 years, 4 times a week, and you're a white belt?
Yeah, see, this is the issue. Some gyms give out belts like it's no big deal, right? And others make you work for it, right? But I switched gyms.
Go to Cobra Kai.
No, totally. Las Vegas, Cobra Kai, 100%. That seems like a cool place. I switched gyms halfway through, and so I think the new guys are just testing me to make sure that I'm ready to go. All my classmates say I'm sandbagging it, and I should be a blue belt now. But I keep telling them I'm happy to stay a white belt for as long as possible.
Right against the white belt, right? They don't throw you against the brown belts. And you're a white belt.
But it's tons of fun. It's tons of fun.
It's ass kicked. So sometimes you need to fight against these better fighters. That's the same with everything. You got to play against people who are better than you. That could be, Jiu Jitsu, basketball, gaming, any of that stuff. The only way to get better is to play against people who are better than you.
100%. And I think if you're comfortable where you're at, you're not growing, right? And so that's another reason why I took this gig with Gravis and tried, moved to Boise to open up their office over here and left the cushion of Seattle, right? Is because it's the Wild West over here. We're growing and the city's growing, and it's been tons of fun to get to a new market and go, hey, I'm here. Let's stretch myself. And I think that if you could find anything to do in life, that's my one kind of mantra is, get yourself out of your comfort zone, whatever that looks like, and you'll never regret it. It'll be wonderful for you.
I agree. I've been working on that as much as I can, and you just got rewarded, right? You got a promotion recently. Now you're principal.
Yeah, so decided to buy into the firm, and we are we're just growing like crazy. We got 11 offices, 60 attorneys, and been around for 5 years, and we're just doing things. We're just trying to do things differently and take out all the old Goliath firms that don't know how to flex and don't know how to keep things simple. So it's been working.
That's great. Well, congrats on that. I always let everyone go with the final question. You have 24 hours to hang out with anybody you want. They have to be living, and you can't be related to them. Who do you pick, and what would you guys do? And I'm going to make this happen for one of my guests.
Oh, wow. So 24 hours to hang out with
anyone.
Someone. It probably has to be. Yeah, I probably want to hang out with like someone like Steve Curry, play some basketball, kind of see what the chaos is down there. He seems like a really good guy as well as a great athlete, and I would just love to just get to know him better and hang out, and maybe he could teach me a little bit on how to shoot a 3-pointer because
how good these people are. Nothing's changed from shooting threes, but they're better now than they were. I mean, everyone's chucking from God knows where. Well, Steph Curry is a very good choice. Tell everyone where they can find you. Obviously, we got the website here, and how you can help them.
Yeah, no. So I please send me an email, reach out to me, gravislaw.com, and I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter with at Northwest NW Startup Lawyer, and I'm just, I like helping. Like I said, I like helping people who are entrepreneur minded and want to grow their business, and hopefully I can find a way to do that in a way that makes sense for you in a collaborative fashion. I give all of my clients my personal cell phone number, so if you send me an email, I'm the most accessible attorney that anybody's ever met. And
that's the way you gotta do it. No one is going to be more accessible than me. That's one thing that is, I think it's, and it's great.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of smart attorneys out there in the world, and the way I differentiate myself is I'm available, and I make myself available so that we can get stuff done. So
Well, I can vouch for that firsthand. The bad news is I'm probably going to have to use you.
no.
The good news is that I'm going to get to work with you. It's just that's the nature of business, and got to protect yourself and make sure that that you get everything that you deserve, and make sure that you don't, I guess, piss off the wrong people, which can get you into a lot of trouble. And but it's been great having you here. Great conversation. Look forward to talking to you again and seeing you at some of these networking events. And enjoy the rest of the week. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning into the Wolff Den. Got some great guests the rest of this week. And don't forget Mark Moyer, Win Again Academy. There's an event tonight in the club room, 7 p.m. Eastern. Check it out, winagainacademy.com. I'm Matt Wolff with Ticket Time Machine. Reuben, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Until next time, thanks for watching the Wolff Den.
Have a good one.